But for all intents and purposes, they'll be delivering the same product to the town. But I'll let Fred speak to the cost aspect.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I basically called Jim Rivard and his group, and Jason put it nicely, but I told Jim directly, listen, you're going to do this for $50,000 and like it because this is a good client. And this may neither here or there, may not affect your decision either way if it's based on price. I do believe we have a very strong group when it comes to these types of plans, and Jim Rivard said, okay. So at this point, if you did decide to move forward with a $50,000 price, and I basically directed them, this is what they're doing it for. And there was no pushback. So again, that's really it in a nutshell. It was brief and I was direct and to the point. And that was based on some discussion I had with Jason.
So just so you know too, so I reached out to Weston and Sampson's a fairly similar sized company, and they have a CRM group as well, operations side. So they're kind of similar. The other person I reached out was Amory Engineers. They're a smaller firm in Duxbury, and they're the ones that I'm waiting on the final number from to determine what their cost would be.
Well, there's some discussion, John.
My suggestion would be that we wait to get the Amory proposal if we're going to get it soon. I mean, meeting by like the end of the week, and then
they'll be by the end of the week.
Then if people are available, we schedule a brief meeting. I would suggest 20-minute meeting for Monday or Tuesday next week if we can. And I would rely a lot on Jason's recommendation. That's my thought, but that's really what I'd like to hear from Lee and Steve.
I agree.
Yeah, I think
I agree.
Okay, so we'll coordinate after the meeting. Maybe Brenda, we can coordinate emails as to times that would work for people, and Jason and Fred, Monday or Tuesday.
Yep, I'm available.
Yep.
Okay.
Great.
Oh.
Well, we still don't have the interconnect people here, but I see Don has joined us.
Yes.
If we want to unmute Don. Hi there.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Dawn.
I apologize. Let me just pull up the report. So I sent these this morning. Fortunately, with the shortened time frame for the meeting, this is as early as I could get to it this month. So hopefully next month we'll get it to you the weekend before. But anyway, we're continuing on in a positive momentum from August. We continue to be ahead of last year. We're still about 21% compared to last year, up from last year, about 227,000. And again, that's based on the first quarter still. So when you look at year to year for September itself, we basically collected the same amount as we did last year. So on the revenue side, we're continuing in a positive path. And then on the expenditure side, there's not really a big update. General expenses were at 18.3% of our budget. So definitely doing well there. I mean, 3 months in, you'd expect general expenses to maybe be 25% if everything was kind of going as planned. But based on our conservative budgeting, appears to be in good shape as usual. So that's really all I have. Quick update. Any questions?
Let's see, the next meeting, we should be able to have the year-end closing.
Yeah, I'm in the middle working on that now. That's why I apologize for being so short, but I'm just trying to get my last reconciliations completed, and then I got a bunch of reporting to the state to do. So yeah, I'd expect by the November meeting, we'll have year-end numbers, and DOR might not have certified retained earnings at that point, but at least I'll have a solid number to at least discuss.
Because that will help us in planning our budget to see what we have that we can spend on instead of borrowing.
Yep.
Correct.
And hopefully we won't have any major breaks between now and whenever.
Have you folks taken a look at your capital plan yet for this coming year? And
if you're done with you, Don, we could potentially move that up in the agenda to now. If you guys are
I'm
okay
done.
with
Unless anybody else has questions, I'd love to hear what you have proposed so far, based on, we already kind of looked at the capital plan as a start to our water rate study. So just kind of curious where we're heading for 2022.
Hold on, I'll send it to you too, what I just sent to them.
Okay.
Are you guys okay with, you guys have any other questions for Dawn before I take over?
No, I'm good.
Nope.
Thank you.
So I sent out to everybody the updated 10-year plan. I'm going to share the screen, hopefully, and we can take a look at this. I'm going to share screen. All participants. So, close that. So in here, we updated the cost of the, oh shoot.
Going too fast.
I know, it's scrolling, this big column is making it scroll very fast. So I'm going to reduce that, hopefully. Yeah. So we got an updated construction cost from Tetra Tech based on how we've gone so far with the piloting of $3.6 million for full construction cost on the activated carbon. So that's up from a $2 million originally. Then in meeting with Fred today and the SCADA people, in order to implement that and then the chlorine upgrade, we need to do some upgrades to the SCADA here at the plant, as well as just in general, the PLCs here at the plant are no longer supported. So we need to get new PLCs just in case. If one fails today, the replacement cost for the PLC itself, given the type it is a $10,000 item. The ones we'll be replacing them with are less expensive because they're the updated current model system. And then I moved up the conversion from gaseous chlorine to liquid. Reason being is to theoretically package those as one project, one upgrade, instead of having the GAC and then the chlorine in the following year, just to do them all as one big design and bid project to cut down on the engineering costs and the bidding costs by implementing them both together in one project. And then if there's any changes that need to happen as far as the chlorine addition due to the GAC, it can be addressed in that upgrade versus addressing them separately. So if we're putting an additional add-on building, let's say for the GAC filtration enclosure, we can include a bulk storage for chlorine potentially inside of that same building and incorporate that in the design when we do it. So that's where that happened, and we bumped out. The MCC was in for this year, but we pushed that out a couple of years because it's not necessarily a high priority item, and it would significantly affect operations, the implementation of the MCC changeover. So that's what we are projecting.
As of right now. Couple questions, Jason.
Yep.
First, the 3.6 million, is that our efforts to deal with the THM levels?
Yeah, that'll deal with the THM and any PFAS here at Lily Pond.
Okay. And is that number, I think you said it went up, so that number is not reflected in our rate study, or?
It was not reflected in the rate study. So it was originally carried as a $2 million, and now it's up to 3.6.
All right.
But it was borrowed. So that incremental cost, I can tell you what that extra cost would be on an annual basis.
Okay, why the big jump?
Because of change in implementation. As we've looked at it during the piloting, the original theoretical implementation is probably not going to work. We're going to have to do an additional building outside of the building to house the GAC. And this just changes in construction costs too, given COVID. The material costs have gone up for construction, so we're just carrying those costs. They may reacclimate down as time goes on, but we have to carry current construction dollars just in case there is a change. And
Okay, this does not include the well field though, does it?
It does not include the well field. So just as a note, by the way, I just noticed as I pulled it up. No, that's not right. GAC. So we were carrying 2.3 because we escalated that cost anyways. So it is going to be now 3, 4. So you're going to see so you were I just broke the spreadsheet. You're probably going to see a minor increase in cost, not a significant increase in cost over the cost of a 20-year borrowing in that increase.
Now, what's the yearly maintenance cost with this?
The annual operating cost would be $300,000.
$300,000 a year once that's put into place?
Yeah.
It is not currently budgeted in your operating budget?
It was put into the rate study.
An increase in 300.
Yes.
My question kind of for the group, everyone is, because the rate study won't go forward because there's no town meeting coming up until May, right?
Correct.
We won't get our rate study to go forward until May. And what if the rate study fails? How can we pay for this expense?
We're gonna have to work through it. I mean, borrowing, I don't think more than 20 years, you can run the numbers to see, but, I think 20 years is what we've been going on under the assumption of. I mean, that's a great question. That's something we have to consider. I think it's going to be a lot of planning, more planning than we already have to get this thing approved at town meeting. I mean, luckily we have a number of months at this point to educate and go through that process. But like Jason said, we already planned on having that $2 million in there, right? Jason, $2 million, was that at 2022 as well?
It was technically 2.3 because he escalated it as well. So it's 2.3 escalated, so it's now up to 3.6 from 2.3.
Right. So I mean, to your point, John, that $2 million was still based on a projection of our rate study. So
right. So which hasn't been approved yet. So my sense is we can't go forward with this without getting that rate study approved, and we have to redo the rate study based upon these new numbers.
Well, also because we only have 4 years left in it, unless we change.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Do a 5-year.
So I think we have to extend the rate study if people agree, rehire the group that did it. Hopefully it won't be that much for them to come in and reevaluate for another year and add this additional information.
I don't know how comfortable I am with the group that did it, considering how they really did not comply with everything in their contract.
I
There
agree,
was some,
but go
then
ahead,
that's
Jason.
the question would be, I guess, and we can talk off. The other option might be either to bring it to Woodard and see if they're a rate person and take a look at it again, and or we could update the spreadsheet internally and see what it looks like, at least as a evaluation process.
I think that might be a good starting point, Jason. I mean, whether
Because
or not that company we used fulfilled everything that we wanted them to, we still got a presentation from them. We got figures. We got a spreadsheet that we could work with. I mean, if it's a matter of updating, some of our capital numbers to see how it pans out over the next 10 years, to complete our 5-year study, then, maybe we start with that internal review. And then, yeah, I mean, if it's worthwhile to go to Woodard, again, nothing's free. So I think
the other one too is you can't look at this every year as being updated either, because you didn't touch it for 5 years and you just worked and we changed the plan as we went. That what was done originally in the last rate study as what the 5 years of capital were was not what was actually completed. You did other projects and or you were supposed to borrow and you paid cash. I'm not saying it was right or wrong, but this isn't set in stone. The exact numbers are never the exact numbers. They're just a approximation.
right. I mean, I'm anticipating based on, the preliminary close that we're going to have great retained earnings figure at the end of the year. And I mean, if we have to use some of that to put a little down payment and use cash instead of borrowing for that amount. Again, it comes down to we factored in a lot of the stuff to the rate study. Basically, it would have to, I guess a contingent plan would be to look at the debt service, kind of like what we were doing in the past, is looking at what the roll-off is and building that in and kind of seeing where we're at.
The one benefit to potentially going after this now too, just as a separate note, is my goal would be we put this forward in the summer for SRF funding with the state. And depending upon what happens as far as economic recovery is concerned, there could be either 0% or debt forgiveness in that program to help stimulate the economy. And it would be this is the time you do it. You go after a big project at that point, just in case too.
Jason, you mentioned summertime for SRF. Is that their cycle that they approve or award grants or these programs on?
You submit it in August.
And when's the approval?
Would be in December. But
so we'd be still waiting a full year for this?
You can't apply for SRF without the town meeting vote.
Aside from SRF, were you guys expecting to get this done as soon as you could? So I guess the reason I'm asking is that if we went to town meeting and asked for it, and went through and authorized borrowing to start a project, were you expecting to start it immediately as soon as you could? Or
we will.
Putting it off another year going to be an issue?
We have to do engineering first anyways. So part of that is the engineering costs. So
okay.
First off, we can't go online. We wouldn't be doing construction in the middle of the summer. So we would start off July 1st with an engineering contract, submit SRF based on, let's say, by the time July's done, they have a 25% design concept. They submit that to DEP for SRF funding while they get to 100% complete. Hopefully by then we're close to the deadline for finding out where we're ranking. And then it's probably not too far off, Don, from when the actual construction would happen.
So would it make sense then, instead of putting a whole $3.6 million project on the street, go with the engineering portion?
I can't go to SRF funding. You get by not authorizing that borrowing, you get points on your SRF application for being shovel ready, basically. And the only way you can be shovel ready is by authorizing the borrowing of 3.6.
Okay. So you could authorize the borrowing and know that and plan for an estimated engineering cost that you know that you could cover in your budget, right? I mean, you're just playing games at that point. If you have the authorization from town meeting, we know that we can do the project. Again, we're going to just look at what the financials would look like if a rate study didn't go through. But again, I think rate study, just with COVID, everything going on, is probably why it wasn't a great idea, or why they wanted to push it off after this past annual town meeting. And I think explaining the study, educating the public, hopefully it shouldn't be an issue passing what we already have. And that, this being somewhat of a minor adjustment in the overall study itself, right?
It's also educating capital budget and getting it through capital budget, which may be a hurdle too.
Can I ask you folks a question? My internet was a little quirky, but was there a price difference between Wooded and Weston and somebody else? My internet was a little quirky. I didn't hear the most part, but I heard there was a big number jump.
So Weston and Sampson total cost for both phases was 38. Hold on, I want to say 800, and Wooded was down to 50,000
from 69.
Okay. So would it be hard to ask Wooded to make up the difference between Weston and Sampson and to include the rate study in their 58 total package? Because if you had the rate study done just recently, there really shouldn't be that much more to do.
I think it would be big. If I was the rate study guy, say I'm going to start from scratch with my spreadsheets and my data, and he's not going to take somebody else's spreadsheet and update it. That's just my gut feel. I'm not him, but that's me.
It's worth it. It's worth the ask.
Yeah, we can certainly try.
Because numbers are numbers. They really shouldn't really lie too much if they were done right.
Well, I mean, the last rate study was basically just a 2.5% increase across all the numbers every year. And what people really didn't understand was we had not had a rate increase in 10 years? It was quite a long time. We had, as a matter of fact, reduced the water rates instead of increasing them 10 years ago, and we maintained that rate. What everybody was always concerned about was the recovery charge. And that is what people don't understand.
Well, that's the biggest thing I hear from people is the recovery charge, right? Everybody refers to.
Yeah, people hate it, and people believe it's going away, and it's not going away. It's just being retermed to a different charge.
And
well, no, it's being the recovery charge that was for previous work. We have to look forward to say, well, just because we updated back several years ago, we can't stop updating unless we want the system to crash. So it's just a constant maintenance. The same way your real estate taxes go up or utility bills go up. They have to have a certain amount of capital in order to maintain the system to provide the product.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to really educate people on.
So, both, I'm not a financial guru like a lot of people are, but so if we go out and borrow, we end up having a recovery charge at the end, correct?
No, not necessarily. Just you got to build it. You got to see where you're at with your budget. So again, without the recovery charge, without talking about the rate study, if we're at our current budget and you had a reduction in your debt service because we paid down some debt, we have a reduction. You could potentially fit new projects without changing your rate structure. Again, it gets into layering and figuring out where we're at with certain projects, how long we're going to borrow for.
Yeah.
So it doesn't necessarily always increase your rates. It's a matter of operating costs going up. Capital recovery charge, in my opinion, was something that they put that was instituted at one point in time because of all these projects, and it was intended to cover the debt service to a certain point in time, which I think was 2030. I forget the exact date. But as Lee mentioned, you continue to do projects, and that charge doesn't go away. It either shows up in one place or another. It either shows up in your operating rates or that capital recovery charge. So I don't know if I answered your question, but
No, you did.
Yeah, see, but we also had some serious financial issues back several years ago. We weren't the only people in town having these issues because the school was having issues and they were stuffing water bills into drawers to the tune of 100,000 plus that they never paid us. And then the town was not paying us hydrant fees. They didn't pay for 3 years, and then they were paying reduced fees. So, you know, now that we have things straightened out, you could see what's happened with our budget, and we've been able to maintain. And I think everyone in the town is working on the same page now because the people, let's say, who were there before are no longer there. We have more responsible people running the show.
right, we could talk about this for hours. I think it's just a matter of we could educate everybody, have some forums before town meeting. Maybe, you know, what are people's real questions about this capital recovery charge? What, you know, and why the rate study is what it is, where we're heading. Our capital plan really is a big driver of the rate study. And I think a combination of those, hopefully the public will be satisfied with a better understanding before they go to vote.
I think that's really needed, honestly.
Yeah. Well, Jason and Don, you were there with me at those combined meetings where that one advisory member, he was always interested in, well, show us exactly how the repayment of the loans are going, because he couldn't understand that at all. And I know to go back into that is, yes.
Well, the bigger one is going to be the hard one, which is they want to see our rates compared to other towns. And
right.
That's the real issue, because no town is the same, and you can't compare one town to another, because if another town is not maintaining their infrastructure, their rates are going to be different than a town that is. And a town that has a small user base with a lot of infrastructure is going to be more expensive than a town with a large base and large infrastructure. So I did do that analysis. I don't know if I have that easily available, but I did.
Jason, what you just said is what people really need to hear.
Yeah, but they don't want to hear it, because we had a discussion and everybody's
no,
like,
I agree. But you know what? If it's out there in the public, the public domain, there are people out there will understand and let's be honest, they will kind of talk about it. You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like, hey, are you going to go to Lowe's or Home Depot to buy some of your tools, or are you going to go to the little mom and pop store?
Harbor Freight.
Yeah. You know, we're the little mom and pop store compared to like a Hingham or a Situate. And then we have our water supply is above ground mostly. They're wells, and don't forget how much cheaper the wells are. Look at what our wells cost compared to Lily Pond. So you just can't this town compared to that.
I completely agree. The hard part is convincing people of that. And Jason said it perfectly. You did, Lee and Steve. But it's hard getting people to understand that. They're thinking we're Home Depot versus Lowe's, and why it's going to cost me more at one than the other.
So what I did do, and I got to revisit this now. I did take a look at that last year and looked at an average cost. And so Cohasset was at 401 with the rate increase. Hingham's was 396 currently. And then I went in the AWWA has this website you can go to and determine other towns that are similar in size and users. I may have then cherry picked some ones that are close, but like Mattapoisett was up in the close range, Marion, but they're all similar coastal communities small user base, lots of infrastructure. So we're not entirely out of the range of other similar communities. We're higher, yes, but we're
But
not like
talking 20. You're only talking $20 and 330. I mean, that's really nothing.
Yeah. So, but I mean, if you look at Norwell, yeah, you're 153 for the same thing. I mean, but that's their groundwater source. They have a larger commercial base, those type of things. So so yes, there is a picture that you can paint that at least shows that we're not entirely insane in our price for water.
The bottom line, if we don't spend the money, as others have said, I think Steve has said it, and Lee, if we don't spend the money to keep our plant up, it's going to fail, and it's going to be worse for the citizens and the future generations. We don't have a choice.
And that's where your costs will go up.
Right.
The other piece we did talk about too internally is, and I got to get the bottles. We are going to take some effluent water from the pilot, the filtered, and then we can potentially do a taste test too. When we go, we can open it up to the public and say we'd like people to come by and see what this upgrade is going to do to your water quality as far as just the taste alone of the water will be improved. Not that that's the end all and be all of your tap water, but if your tap water can taste good, then that's a better thing for everybody.
But this spreadsheet really just shows you that something like this is really what the public should really see, and it convinces me. You know, I'm being a little biased, but it's pretty darn good.
Well, also, I think we have to show what type of water source these people have. Is it surface? Is it ground? How much is with?
You're getting into, these are similar sized, similar user base. You can't find the exact match, Lee, because if you're going to go surface water, you're going to be in Weymouth and Rockland and Abington, where they have huge user bases and nobody.
But what I'm saying is,
because the problem is, if I show you Situate's a bad example. Situate's the same thing, and their rates are lower. So you don't want to go too focused on the infrastructure. Just focus on the size of the community. And I can send you guys a link to the website where I found this, but these were the ones: Mattapoisett, Marion, Nahant, Essex. They're all similar communities. They're not neighbors, but they're similar number of customers and similar cost.
Well, I think another important aspect that we're not looking at is how much water we have to supply. Don't forget how many towns around us are on water restrictions starting in April for every single year. So that is something that has to get across to these people, that except in dire years, seems like it's every 4 to 5 years now we're having this drought situation, but otherwise we're not on any water restriction, where these other towns are possibly all on water restrictions April through October. And you have to say, what would you like? You can move to those other places that are cheaper and get your water restricted.
No, the rates would actually go up if we restricted water.
Oh, no, I'm saying no, but I'm saying we're not restricting water.
We're lucky. If we got into a drought earlier, if we got into a drought in July, we would have been out of money.
Yeah.
So be careful what you wish for.
No, not what I wish for, but I'm just...
with the opposite. We could end up with a really bad situation, selling the fact we have extra water and then we don't. And then we're all coming with a worse talk at the next town meeting.
Wow.
So I think the point we're all getting to is we need to sell this at town meeting. We need to sell it to the selectmen, to capital budget, to the citizens of the town. And part of what we paid the person to do the rate study was for them to be a third party, independent third party, to come to town meeting, to go to all these meetings and actually do that for us. And
Yes,
I
and
think there's-
unfortunately, it was Jason, Don, and myself.
Right, I know, but that was part of the contract, that they were supposed to go to these meetings as an independent third party and explain everything. Because we don't, people, I mean, every time we go to these meetings, people give us a hard time, as you know.
We just had an idea. Do we still have that PR person on staff or
Yeah.
on consult? Could we talk to them before the end of December to maybe get some ideas of how we can project?
I would think so.
What? You would
would
think
think
so.
so.
I mean, since we're paying for them.
We can reach out through Chris to see what their availability might be to help support this.
Yeah.
I might be more inclined to use the money we didn't spend finishing the rate study, John, using them to help PR on it. Because we didn't pay the entire amount of money to the rate study people. We didn't pay their last payment.
That was
because
only
they didn't show up.
$600, Jason.
Okay. I know, but it's my
something.
point being, I'd rather spend the money with the rate study people. If even if we're out of their contract in December, I'd rather spend it with a PR firm than an engineer. We have his information. It's just a matter of selling it, like you said. And are we better off with a salesperson than the only reason why I say it is because I never felt comfortable in any of the discussions that Mike had with us.
Yeah.
I myself and Don had a better handle on what he was saying than he did.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be then having to correct somebody saying something that makes me nervous in the meeting.
Well, it's good we had this 10-year plan discussion, because I think it shows that we have still a lot of planning to do. We should have time, but we have a lot of planning to do before town meeting in order to get our message across to everybody and to get the rate study finalized.
Now, are we looking at a May date, Don? Do you know?
I believe so. I believe just like prior years would be very end of April or first couple days in May.
Okay.
Unless they push it up a little bit for some reason, but I haven't heard anything otherwise. So I would expect the same time frame as prior town meetings.
No, I know we've had some in March too.
That would have been before my time.
That was. I'm looking way back. Having gone to several, shall we say.
Sure.
So nothing was unusual. All right. Do we have any other?
Do we want
Yes.
to move those 3 projects forward? Those are due this week, the capital spreadsheet and capital plan. Are we good with that conceptually?
I think given the THMs, the big item is a 3.6 million. We cannot avoid dealing with the THMs. So I think we have to go forward with that.
You know, because on the flip side, what would the state come down and make us do if we don't deal with it?
Notify. And you'd be
Yeah.
notifying everybody that you have water they shouldn't be drinking.
That will never get any increased rates.
But my point being, in the end, if we do move forward with them, I'm going to say to everybody that we're going to bundle them basically as one project. They may be listed as 3, but in the end, like if you got a $94,000 SCADA, a portion of that needs to be done ASAP. So if there's a question of ranking, I would actually rank a portion of the SCADA project as the highest if asked by capital budget, then GAC, and then the chlorine changeover, realistically.
Okay, but what about Elm Street too? Is that on there
Elm
someplace?
Street's already been budgeted and approved
Okay.
at the last town meeting.
In there? All right.
So in the end, we'll be moving forward with that in the spring. Construction.
Okay, do we get a motion on this, guys?
Go ahead, John. You go first.
Wait, the motion's on Elm Street, so can you?
No, the motion's not on Elm Street. It's for the 3 projects. It's for the,
Okay, I make a motion that we agree to proceed with the 3 capital projects for fiscal year 2022
2.
as set forth in the 10-year capital plan proposed by Jason.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is that all you need, Jason, or do you need the whole capital plan approved?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
I'm going to submit the rest of the capital plan, but I don't think we want to get to that level of detail. The only thing I changed from previous times is I added in replacement vehicles based on a 10-year replacement of the 2 we just bought, and I have a replacement of one that is a 2006 in 2024.
Okay.
But other than that, it's the same as we put in last year.
Sounds good. All right, now, Don, do we need anything else from you?
No, I'm good.
Thanks,
good.
Don.
Okay. Hey, can we have an
you.
update? How's the baby?
Oh, she's great. She's great. 4.5 months already. Time's flying by. It's crazy. She's awesome.
Yeah.
Got her giggling. She's moving and grooving. Not
You
quite
sleeping?
rolling over and crawling yet, but
Yeah, you
she'll
getting
be there
any
soon.
sleep, Dawn?
My wife's going to kill me. Knock on wood. She's been sleeping 12 hours a night. It's crazy.
Wow.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's wonderful.
She does a nap for us during the day, but we get probably from 6 till about 6 in the morning. So
Dude.
That's good.
she's going to kill me if she starts waking up now at 2 in the morning.
The teething will begin tonight.
Yeah, right. Yeah, thank you for asking.
Congratulations. That's great.
That's
Thank
awesome.
Awesome.
All right, I got to run. Let me know
Okay.
if there's anything else before the next meeting, and we'll go from there.
Sounds good.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
See you, Don.
All right.
Okay, we still have not heard from our interconnect people.
No, let me check my email real quick here, Lee, just to see if anything has come in. Nope.
Nope. All right. Water restrictions, have we gotten any feedback from a lot of angry people or anything on that?
Actually, it hasn't been really. I mean, I did get a ton of phone calls. People, well, can I do this? Can I do that? And somebody who works at the yacht club even asked if he could hose down boats still.
The Commodore?
I told him that would be a no-no. But no, for the most part, and I have, because it is the billing right now, I've downloaded a bunch. The guys have been out data logging for 2 days straight.
Yeah.
Anybody I've found that had their irrigation systems on still, the ones I could get through to, there's a lot of high bills this quarter. You guys, I think you're going to be happy with your revenues. I was hoping to have numbers today, but it's just not feasible. There's just too many.
Okay, you can email them.
So I'm contacting as many as I can. I'm giving them a warning. Everybody so far has shut them off that I've spoken. I call them that day. The next day we check it again. So far, so good.
Good.
Probably have to respond to what demand's at now. Yeah, I mean, everybody's been pretty good about it. I mean, I think they were all pleased that they could wait for as long as they could.
That's good. Well,
That's good.
I did get a text from one of the selectmen asking whether or not we had an official statement. And I sent him our official statement. And I'm very upset that whoever does the town website for something like this, they couldn't put it on the main page of the town website. In order to find our statement, you have to go into the website, look under water department, scroll down and try to find.
That's where I told them to put it, Lee.
Pardon?
That's where I told Justine to put it. That's
Really?
where everybody was going to, looking for it when we went the one in September. Unbeknownst to me, it never got posted on our website. So I automatically told Justine, who's doing our postings now, to put it directly on the front page of the water department's website.
No, it should be going on the front page of the town's website in the notices at the bottom, realistically.
See, now what it was you had to scroll down and see it as a document. It wasn't obvious.
Right. It's not like it says water department and it gives our whatever, but right below that, I don't know.
I found it on Facebook.
Well, it was on Facebook. It was on WBZ radio. I think it was on the news. I'm not positive about that.
No, I mean, it was all over. What I'm talking about was, here was a selectman concerned about the official statement, and to find it on the website, it wasn't like, well, okay, we opened the water department page and it was obvious. Because people, when they go into the town website, they're all different kinds of things. There isn't even something about a Boy Scout thing on the front page. And you would think that, some of these things, they could be up on the front page for 2 weeks and then go to the water department site as soon as,
You guys have to direct me because
okay.
I don't have control of our website at all, like I used to. So I have to rely on Justine now. It used to be Jen.
Do it.
It's Justine.
Yeah, Brenda and I will work in the future to make sure she puts them in the right spot. It should be on that popular topics on the front page.
As soon as it's done, you think it'll be on the popular topics for a week or two, something up like that.
We'll make sure in the future that she puts it on there as well as on
Maybe
the
when
water
we
department
get
page.
rid of the water ban, we'll put it under popular topics.
Yeah, that'll be good. So how are things looking? Can you look out the window there, Jason or Fred, and see the water coming up in the pond?
It looks rainy out still.
Doesn't look like it's really increasing.
We gained a whole millimeter today.
Oh, I was hoping we gained at least 1 or 2 inches.
Half inch.
We had 1.4 inches of rain.
How much?
1.4 so far.
Oh, that's good. It's supposed to keep raining for a while.
Stabilize things.
Yeah. Okay, so moving right along, the THM levels and the lab testing graphing that you guys were going to show us last time.
So we're in the process now. I met with Fred and I have been meeting, both he and I together, and then also with his IT guy at corporate. And we had a meeting today. We are going to have a live test site up and running next week of the quote unquote Power BI system. So what they've implemented on their own end already is this program called Hawk Winds. So in there, they're putting in all of their internal lab testing data. It's tied into their testing equipment. So all that stuff gets populated in there. I have also been providing them with our historic data. Basically, I have to parse it out to constituent and location, and then they're bulk loading in those results to the system. We're going to meet again once it's up and running to determine when we get those lab results in, is it something that gets hand keyed in, or there's other implementation situations that they have, Woodard, where they get the raw spreadsheets from the labs and they put them basically in a folder on the server, and it automatically uploads to the system and live updates the graphing based on those spreadsheets. So the goal is to get that implemented as a test site next week with our live data implemented.
Okay, will the end product be user-friendly to people who were not really into high tech?
Can you show them your one out at your Power BI out at the Hingham place?
Let me see if I can get to it.
While you're looking for that, can I just ask if anyone can just briefly explain how we're doing on THMs this year, if we're at risk of exceeding the levels, the limits?
This is Carl. The August testing, the levels were down at least 25% from what they were last year. So then we have been violating those high numbers from last summer now drop off because it's a annual running average.
Mm-hmm.
We are back in better shape. Things were really tight for several quarters.
What do you attribute that to? Because I know the summer months are typically the worst, right, Carl?
Yes, but the organics last year were over 20. This year they're back to normal. They're at 12. It's the organics that contribute to the THM formation.
Okay. That's good news.
It is.
Now, if these THMs remain at a lower level with the organics, does that impact the cost of the GAC at all or anything?
The piloting will show based on current levels, and then they'll look at historic trends of organics to determine the actual loading rate. So it's more of it will affect it, but that peak we had, the peak we had last year may be a negative influence, but I don't know that it's going to, when you look at a 1 year peak over a 10-year average, it's not going to have as much of an effect as if it was a continuous situation.
Mm-hmm.
Can everybody see my screen?
I can.
Yep.
Okay, so this is a general Power BI dashboard. This is something we're building now for Derby Street shops. This is something I also reference, or I pull data for my monthly operating report. So I have tables set up specifically. These graphs are for the monthly operating report, but you can see it pulls from, as Jason mentioned, Hawk WIMS into potentially Utility Cloud and then a Power BI dashboard. They're all kind of working together. So we're building a lot of data, and basically we use this information to evaluate process, especially if there's, process upsets or issues, we can track this and, react accordingly. So it's good from an operator or plant manager standpoint. Also, there's a lot of data. It's very robust. Equipment run times. You can pull in other asset management controls as well. There's other reports. There's a lot more to it than what you're just seeing.
Yeah.
You have the ability to run asset management reports as well. It can show the type of work that was performed. For example, in the filter plant on pumps or any preventative maintenance schedules that can be connected to this as well. That can be exploded into, pie charts. So you can actually see where, for example, plant staff is spending their time. It's broken out by task. So again, this is very basic. I wasn't ready to present this, or I would give you something that's kind of more robust, but I'd be happy to share that with you.
But in the end, Lee, you'll have one of these tabs will be what we share with you guys on a regular basis.
Okay, that looks good.
So that's the goal that we've been kind of working away at between. Originally, Fred was being the middleman, then finally he let all three of us talk instead of trying to be the translation man in the middle. He let two IT guys talk to each other versus trying to stand in the middle of it. So we had a really good talk today, and so our goal is next week to have something close to being ready. So what we'll end up having is we'll get one, at least to start, town license of Power BI. It's just basically a add-on to Microsoft 365 that we'll have internally, accessing all the data in Hawk WIMS, basically.
Looks good. Well, thank you. John, do you have any other questions about levels or anything?
The only question I had is, and I don't know, but a huge discussion on this, but do we need to spend the 3.6 million if our THM levels are low? The answer is probably that we still do, because this is just a good year, but it's a lot of money to spend if we're trending away from the higher levels.
Historically, the organics are high. Our THM numbers have been better than probably 70% of the maximum over a number of years. So, it not only benefits THMs, it will benefit water quality.
And it's also the PFAS.
And PFAS.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I just wanted to ask the question to make sure.
But then we still have the problem about the well field with the PFAS.
Yep. So we're still going to look at potentially piloting down there as an option.
Because we have to decide whether or not it'd be worthwhile to keep it open if it's too expensive. But that's a discussion for another day. All right, the plant automation, we discussed the SCADA and the PLC upgrades. What else do we need? And do we have sort of another update in the future we're looking at?
Fred, do you want to take this one or you want me to talk? We did meet with the guy today.
Yeah, we had Steve Rose on site today to troubleshoot and test process alarms. So we're at a point now where we can move forward. We generated a list, put it into a format that's reportable to DEP, and once we're going to send that to them and say, okay, is this what you're looking for? Is it enough? Is there anything else you'd like to see? We'll wait for that response and we'll move forward accordingly. But we're very close. Most of the alarms tested out without an issue. Any issues were rectified. And then, again, we're moving forward. Anything else you'd like to add, Jason?
Just that at this point in time, there's no additional work that needs to be done, either mechanical or programming wise, to go fully automated. It'll just be an approval by DEP.
But wait a second, what did you say about the SCADA and the PLC updates?
That's a different situation. That's because they could fail. So it's like having we have a CRT TV, and if the TV fails, we have to get a flat screen. That type of a thing. Like it's obsolete technology. So if we don't replace it, we're just on the fear of how old did Steve say they were? 15 years old?
15 to 20.
So we have a 15 to 20-year-old basically computer controlling the whole plant, and we want to replace it and get one that can be replaced. It wouldn't be a problem if you could still buy that same computer and replace it, but they've stopped manufacturing those. I'm calling computer, but not. It's the PLC. But if they stop manufacturing those, so we can't just hot swap one with the new program put the program on and hot swap it. They're not available anymore. They're available, but to the tune of $10,000 a piece. And I think within a year, they're going to be officially off the shelf. So you'd be basically going on eBay. I have had clients do that, go on eBay and buy a PLC and program it.
Now, unfortunately, we're all well aware of everything becoming obsolete very quickly.
So that's why the PLC upgrade.
Okay, sounds good. We did GAC. The grant application for Stop and Shop?
Still waiting for word back on it from the state.
Then what are we ever doing about that grant we were supposed to put in for Elm Street? Is that still up in the air?
We probably won't put that in at this point in time.
That has to go through town meeting?
We'll just go and do the water main project, and then we're still trying to determine what the quote-unquote corridor is going to look like. So that'll either be done with Chapter 90 and Complete Streets money or other sources to make the corridor.
While we're talking about Stop and Shop, any feedback from him? He wanted to come in and discuss.
So I sent an official email to Jeff DeLisi right before the meeting, actually, to say, are you going to officially request to come in and discuss this with us or not? But in the meantime, they have chosen the alternative of hiring a third-party inspector to inspect the construction versus paying the fee and having us inspect it. So I gave them the 2 consulting engineers that are approved by the planning board as review engineers. They're going to hire one of them to come out and inspect the water main construction versus paying the money and having us do it for free.
Okay,
what
now
that says other than
for the water application, to get the line?
He has submitted the application, but I have not officially reviewed the plan, nor have I officially, he hasn't paid, so we don't do anything. We sent him a letter,
Okay.
and I should have sent it to you guys. I fired off the email after the last meeting. I sent it to John. John made some changes, and we sent it off, and it was about the third-party engineering, and I thought that they would say, okay, but no, they decided to hire a third-party consultant and put the line in at risk, quote unquote.
But Jason made it clear in his email that payment of the fee that's due has to be, they have to make the payment before the Water Commission is going to approve their water connection.
Yeah. And I also stated today in my email to his construction manager and the owner that any fees paid to a third-party consultant are not in lieu of connection fee.
Right.
The connection fee stays the same. You are paying that, and that's the owner's responsibility, those costs. So he can't go, oh, I paid the consultant $5,000 to inspect the water line. I want that off my connection fee, because that's not the cost to have Brendan or myself go over there and inspect it to the water department. They're choosing a cost that doesn't need to be borne by them, but they are choosing that.
Right. So even if they get approved engineer to say that the plan is good, until they pay that application fee, Jason doesn't do anything as far as approval or disapproval, right, Jason?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're going to construct it too, based on the plan they have, and they're doing it at risk because it's private property. I don't want to get into it.
If it's not done properly, we won't turn the water on.
Yes. So they're going to have, that's what I told them. I said, that's why the third party engineer needs to certify that the construction was done to a specification level and construction level that's acceptable to the towns.
Okay, by the way, this is a very important discussion we've been having. I got a call from Glenn saying he got a call from Mr. Stasko stating that we are denying him water.
Well,
So,
all the emails don't document that, so.
Yeah, this is, I explained to Glenn what was going on. And this is something that's out in the community. So if you hear anything about it, you know what the story is. All right, next.
I think Jason is well documented to everyone at Stop and Shop Development of what their obligations are. And if they choose to ignore them, they don't get their water.
Yeah. I mean, we have our rules and regulations.
Right.
And they even wrote a letter agreeing that they agree to the fee in concept.
Right.
So it's I don't know.
Okay. Well, speaking of which, the next item is 508 Chief Justice Cushing Highway, the vehicles on the watershed, and that 3-bay repair garage that's where it's not supposed to be.
So I did reach out to Bob, and Bob went out and determined that he doesn't see it being an issue. He doesn't see the 3-bay garage is tied into the same containment system as the other garage is tied into. And he doesn't see how parking of the cars in the grass is an issue. So
considering they're on the bank of Peppermint Brook that runs into our water supply.
So I think we might want to write an official letter because I also question the change in use of the garage, and he said that that isn't what happens inside the building is not what the site plan review process is about. The jurisdiction ends at the physical structures, not what happens inside those physical structures. I said that that's technically an expansion of use of unauthorized use within the Zone A. He doesn't see how it's a contamination source, but it's an expansion of,
Well, if he ever wants to look at anything in the state about any type of pollution from any service stations, I can hook him up with some stuff.
So I think if you guys want, I can work with Fred and Carl writing a letter referencing the regulations that we think need to be addressed. And also what the intent of that storage building was, which if you read, at least what I read of it, was the concept of the storage building storing cars and not being
an active
repair garage is to help reduce the potential for contamination of the aquifer by protecting the cars from runoff and also from needing to be washed as often as well, because they'd be covered during inclement weather.
Because it's supposed to be 12 cars in there.
Yeah. So if you guys want, I will work with Fred on that, with Carl.
But the letter should be addressed from the board, though.
Yeah. I'm going to write a letter from you guys to the planning board and zoning board, if that's what you guys want to do.
Yeah, well, letter would have to go to Bob as an initial step because he's a zoning enforcement officer.
Yeah. But I would CC them.
Yeah. So here, I know I'm probably in the minority here and I'll get outvoted, and that's okay. I completely understand the other views, but at least I just want to have my 2 cents. I don't see the benefit of sending a letter. Bob's already been out there. He's already looked at it. He's made his determination. Bob served our town for decades, done a great job. He's near retirement. He's staying on. He just to help the town out because they can't find a replacement yet. And I see it as kind of adversarial to send him a letter and say, you already got out and inspected it. We don't like what you did. And so we're sending you a letter, and it becomes kind of contentious between us and the building department. And one thing I've tried to do on the commission, I think the town and the water department really should work well together and should be cooperative and try to do things more informally than sending letters saying we don't like what you did. So that's my only point.
If you want, then I can try and set up a meeting between myself, Brian, Chris Sr., and Bob.
And
maybe Lee can attend as the chair.
Yeah.
Okay, well, one thing I want to say about this, though, there have been issues between planning and building in the water department ever since I got on board, because they initially permitted that condo complex on James Lane against both of our regulations. We had the regulation, it had to be blasting only because of the shallow wells and looping of the line. The permit read, it was supposed to be chipping only, not blasting. The permit read blasting only and no looping, because they told us that well field was closed and never going to open. That building, the entire project is overbuilt according to the plans that the building department was well aware of and did nothing. That's only that project. This one is more intense because of where it is in Zone A and on the embankment of Peppermint Brook. Peppermint Brook goes directly into Lily Pond. PFAS is a known substance that is in the automotive industry. I'm very concerned about the PFAS number we got at Lily Pond that was over 10. With all of the pieces of equipment, the trailers, the heavy construction equipment, and the cars, plus the garage being right there, I am very concerned about pollution, having been in the petroleum industry for 40 years. And this is going to be on our back to have to clean it up. I think we should have something out there so that we are saying to the town, this is directly impacting our water supply, and we should be abiding by the rules. Because if something happens and we do nothing, we are more liable than anybody else. But that's my opinion.
All I'm saying is I don't think sending a letter is going to do anything. And so other than create a more contentious relationship between the water department and other departments in the town, I think a meeting would be a more amicable way to address it. That's the only point I'm making.
Okay, no, but I think we have to have something on file just to protect ourselves and to protect future boards. A meeting does not put anything in a public record. This is something on paper, on file.
Well, my email would technically be public record, my initial email to Bob.
Okay.
And the meeting would probably be a Zoom meeting, so.
Yeah.
Public
Okay.
record.
All right. But, I just think that, this is our water supply, and people in this town are not really that into protecting the water supply.
And we have to be careful with automotive stuff because I'm a big car guy. Been around a lot of garages my days, and it's really close, and we have to be careful, and it'll be on our shoulders. And to kind of what Lee said, one of the rules I've learned from work is the pen is mightier than the sword. If you have it written down, that's your back tail right there. So
as long as we have it documented, I don't care how we document it, but it has to be documented so that they can't say, oh, gee whiz, we didn't know. That's the only problem I have with them not knowing or, trying to palm it off as nothing. And as you said, John, Bob Egan is out the door. And do you want to stick this on to the next guy who comes into the seat?
Do I want to stick out to the next guy?
Yeah, the next building inspector. Do you want to get him like, oh, gee whiz, he didn't know about it and all of a sudden get it dumped in his lap? It should be, I think, at least acknowledged.
Let me see how I can make out with Chris and Brian,
okay.
And I'll report back at the next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, next is the brass.
Hold on. Actually, the kids are home and they're making keep going on mute. I was just driving by a couple of times this week. I noticed there was Peter was driving cars behind the building, and so you have to really. I know that brook is right there, right on the edge of that stone. So
I know, and I told him to look at too because he's like, oh, but other stuff isn't paved out there. I said, yeah, that the point is when you look at the plan, all the cars are supposed to be parked on a paved surface to
Correct.
help contain any leaks or anything. So I'm hoping that he will get that enforced ASAP because there was a question about, well, there's other cars parked on dirt. I said, yeah, they're not supposed to be. There's oil water separators and hoods in the catch basins to prevent if there's a water leak and, if there's an oil leak, that runoff gets captured in those hooded catch basins, theoretically.
Cars will sit back there, and they could have like a leak. Like my Mustang has a power steering leak. It's 30 years old. If I want him to do something, it's just going to sit back there until he fixes it. So it's just a prime example. So, okay. Doesn't much to get into the groundwater. Okay, next one. Next topic.
Okay, because we're running out of time here. Brass Kettle Conservation Area signs. You all saw that email and the signs that Tom Callahan wants to put up. And my only concern is, as I said, people just don't seem to have any concept of the water supply or whatever. Don't forget, we were approached a couple months ago by what was an open space because they didn't like the graffiti on one of the trails. And people just dump stuff and they're always going out into the woods to pick up the stuff that people leave behind. So instead of just having hey, you're on Lot Bates Lane or whatever, I don't know. Do you think we should have a little, don't forget, don't leave anything behind or something like that on the signs, something to make sure people realize where they are. I know we're still having that problem at our intake with the people who were supposed to be walking up into the Pat Bay Reservation, but they take their dogs over to the intake instead to relieve themselves.
So Lee, these are Cohasset Conservation Trust signs, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Would they be willing to put something on there, or would we have to do a separate sign? Because I think their
No,
signs are, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Because they sent the signs to us to see what we thought about them. You know, that's why I'm reaching out and saying, well, how about if we suggest to them to include on the bottom of their sign, because they haven't made the signs yet, about don't forget, don't pollute, don't, you know.
You want to carry in, carry out comment. Something that, you know, brief. And Tom was supposed to be here at this meeting. I don't know what happened.
That sounds good to me, Lee.
Okay.
So one other quick note on signage. In the issue with the reservoir and the painting, the police made one comment. Would you guys be okay with me putting up signs not paid for by you guys, but paid for by CPC funds? Signs saying restricted access to daylight hours only up there. So it's fine if people are out there walking their dogs and walking on the reservoir, your land during daylight hours, but restricted access partially for safety too. I didn't even think of it, but the police said it, like somebody could be walking up on that thing and fall down, and but putting up a sign that both Aaron River Road and at the end of Beechwood to say, you know, something to the effect of restricted hours of access to dawn to dusk.
That sounds good. We also add pick up after your dogs.
Yeah, carry in, carry out for
carry
sure.
out,
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're gonna put no graffiti signs up too. So it's gonna be.
We're gonna hope.
We'll see what happens.
Do we need to vote on that? It sounds good to me.
No, I'm fine. I don't need to vote.
All right.
No. Okay. We did the capital plan, the contract extension.
The only point I have on that is Paul can get back to us with some numbers as to what the cost would, or the reduction would be once we're automated. And so we're still waiting on that.
Yep. Paul Rue and myself are working on that together. I'll try to turn something around before the next board meeting, actually.
Okay.
One question I had on that too is if in that contract, do we want to add in a line for them for additional SCADA support that's outside of the operating budget, but it's in there as a to be approved expense line, because we're going to have more automation and more potential need, and have it built into that. In that way, not in a bad way, it may end up being a net zero change, but you get additional scope for the same budget type of a thing.
Yeah, it's
you
a
don't
good
really
idea.
have a line for it. There's no line in the budget really for SCADA in either operations or in Woodard's actual line. You just pay for it out of extraordinary system maintenance or system maintenance.
I take it out of engineering.
Okay, that's where you take it.
It's in there somewhere.
Okay, I've got
That's a good idea.
more. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I've got one more question to Jason. I'm just throwing this out there. I know the commission may not ultimately decide to do this, but how much work would it take to do the RFP that was done 5 years ago, tweak it, and send it out again? I'm just interested to see what kind of numbers we'd get back from what are current competitors.
To rebid the entire contract?
Right.
I'd have to go and take a look at it. I can get you an idea at the next meeting.
Okay, I mean, I'm just, again, and this would be discussion that Lee and Steve, I'd want to get their thoughts on whether it's worth your time and even doing it. But for me, we're entering into a third-year term, and again, I said Woodard and Curran, I think they're doing a great job, but I have no sense of what to compare it against from a cost perspective, and that would give us some way to compare what the competitors' rates would be if we did the RFP. So I throw it out there. If you're able to look at it, and determine how much time it would take, and then the other commissioners can, we can have a discussion as to whether it makes sense to even do it and whether we have time to do it.
I can reach out to both Michelle and Chris Senior and have that discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comments, Steve?
Any of the RFPs that have been out there for other towns with
Oh,
similar size?
We just take our existing RFP and change it, update the
No.
dates and.
But can you see what other towns are paying that they use a contract?
Oh, I could look at what Hingham just got for price.
Yeah, I know that one. That doesn't count.
Why? How bad was it, or how good was it?
It was expensive.
Hmm.
But is there a way to look at? Is there a way to look at other towns of similar size, kind of geographics, and say, hey, I know we're all different because you get the treatment plant. Was
Suez the low bidder on yours or not? Do you know? Or was it
I don't know.
negotiated request?
Was.
Was it the lowest?
Was the lowest.
Was it 4.5 million? 5 million?
Wow.
I think over 5.
It was 5.
$5 million a year?
A year.
Yeah. I think the total cost was it 5 years? Was it 40 million? I forgot that. It was high. 50 million?
5 million. It's if not more than 5 million.
Yeah.
Per
It was
year.
really,
It was a big number.
Yeah.
Wow. So we probably have a great deal. I mean,
Yeah.
but so that's good information to have. And that's something I didn't know.
I guess
Well,
the other question
another
would be
thing though,
too is if we void it, if we go out to bid, I think by definition we end the contract. I have to look, John, because we'd have to notify them in this 90 days in advance. So we'd have to bid it before that 90-day in advance.
Right,
time.
exactly. Yeah, so we cannot miss that 90-day window.
So it has to be fully bid, in hand, and numbers agreed to before that 90-day number. So I'm not saying it can't be done, but it's and then the question is, can Woodard technically say no to an extension at that point? I don't know. Like
They can't. No. Under the contract, they're obligated to extend if we decide to.
There's no termination on their side? I'm not saying there is. I haven't read it enough to know. So they can't opt out.
No, they can't.
see, the other problem too is you take a look at construction costs and employee costs today, and they bid that contract how many years ago? And, and as we found out recently, the employees for the specialties we need are not exactly falling out of the trees.
That's the one thing I would want to make sure we put in there, John, and I don't know how we get that in there is an employee retention potential adjustment prior to going out, because we don't want, if we did go out to bid, I don't want to come in with people negotiating a price based on people's current salaries and then they walk away because of attrition of a better job someplace else. So that's
a real possibility, Jason.
And that's my one caveat. And I'm not saying we shouldn't, but there should be some kind of an escalation on salaries in there built into our RFP saying, we'd like you to keep these people and we'd like to see a certain escalation in those salaries as part of that retention.
I agree with that. I agree. And so maybe, I think we will probably end up, I don't know what Steve and Lee think, but I think we probably will end up extending the Woodard and Curran contract. I'm just trying to make sure I do my due diligence on it.
Oh, good. That's good.
But I think if you look around other communities that they use, like Woodard and Curran, American, Suez, that are kind of just similar, and you see what they're paying, you kind of get maybe an idea. Again, it's not apples for apples.
I know if you talk to the sewer department, they would tell you never to hire Suez for ops. Right. So I don't know how we'd even deal with that as far as the RFP is concerned, as to if we would preclude somebody based on past performance to the community.
And you really can't either.
Yeah.
You can say
Yeah.
it's hard, but you know what I'm saying? Then you're down to, it's going to be a tough negotiation the next time around, because you're going to get to a point where if we're going to basically not that we're going to throw them out, but if Suez is coming in with a black mark against them, it almost decreases the number of even people that are bidding. And that's a catch-22 too, because the less bidders, the more somebody can raise the price and make it a hard decision to say no to Suez. If Suez comes in super low because they want to get back in town, it's going to make it a real hard discussion. If they try and buy the contract, what happens?
And that's a possibility too.
Yeah.
And another thing that we have to look for in the next couple years is whether or not we could do a combined contract, water and sewer. Yeah,
good point,
but I'm
Lee.
looking at the time, and I think we're supposed to be out of here at 5:30 because someone else has another meeting.
Yeah.
We are. So I guess I'll just quickly say I think Steve's point's a good one. That Jason, maybe if you can just look at other towns, as long as they have a sense that this is a reasonable amount, and I'm sure it is, I'll be comfortable extending. And I think Steve's proposal is a good one.
Thank you.
Okay.
And maybe we should reach out to the sewer commission in the meantime too, and see if we can try and get on the same schedule in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, we've been trying that for 10 years.
I know.
But that's a story for another day. About our next meeting, do you want to wait another week or two to see how you guys are doing with school and everything, and see if anything changes before we set up a next meeting?
I would, Lee. We do have to have a meeting next Monday or Tuesday just on the AWIA proposal.
Yeah.
But the bigger meeting, I think we could wait.
Yeah. Okay, but the one next Monday or Tuesday, we have to get that set up pretty quick, because if it's Monday, we have to get it done, an agenda in by Thursday. Right, Brenda?
Send me your availability Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah, I'll do that right when we get off.
Okay, and then Jason, I'll work with Jason to coordinate. He's supposed to have that last proposal.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll push him. I thought we were going to meet next week, and that's why I didn't get it on time. I apologize.
Brenda, next Monday or Tuesday, the only time I can't meet on Monday would be from 5 o'clock p.m. to like 8 o'clock p.m. because my son's got hockey. Other than that, I'm wide open. Just leave it up to Lee and John's time. So.
Okay, I'm pretty
so
open.
From like, you're saying 3 to 5 then, Monday?
Is no good.
No.
3 to 5 is good, right?
What?
Yes, he said 5 to 8 is not good.
5 to 8.
To me,
okay.
anytime after 5. So anytime is fine for me.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Thanks, Lee. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Okay.
everybody.
Okay, I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Thanks, everybody.